The 2024 NFL Draft wasn't just good, it was generational for quarterbacks. With a record-tying 6 quarterbacks drafted in the first round, this class is already living up to the hype, transforming teams and rewriting expectations. And now at the season's midway point, we are going to break down each of these rookies, see who's thriving and who's surprising, and why this quarterback class might go down as one of the greatest in NFL history. Now, as we all know, we have to start with Caleb Williams, who was the consensus #1 overall pick in this draft, identified early in his college career as a generational talent. He was ranked as the second best quarterback prospect in his class in college. In the 5-star recruiting, Caleb Williams briefly did join Oklahoma in 2021, but he then followed his head coach Lincoln Riley from Norman to LA, where his 4,537 passing yards and 52 total touchdowns earned him a Heisman in his first season at USC. And despite the less eye-catching numbers in his junior year, Caleb did remain a can't-miss talent and was still therefore the top prospect coming into the 2024 draft. As we all know, the Bears had completely just given up on Justin Fields after 3 unconvincing seasons and owned the first overall pick from Carolina, who had sent them a haul for that same spot back in 2023, which they used on Bryce Young. I mean, it's safe to say that Chicago had lucked out big time, and they celebrated by using their gift of a first overall pick on Caleb Williams, the man tasked with finally solving their never-ending quarterback dilemma. And surprisingly, they finished the 2023 season strong on defense, meaning they were a few offensive upgrades away from being a legit contender. And now obviously Caleb Williams was the big ticket item for them coming into the 2024 offseason, but they didn't just stop there. Keenan Allen was also brought in to be a big and reliable target for Williams to aim at, and Rome Odunze was drafted with the Bears' second top 10 pick to give Williams a dynamic target on the outside to grow with. They joined DJ Moore to form a formidable wide receiver trio. And as we look back on the first 2 games against the Titans and Texans, they didn't exactly set the world alight, throwing for no touchdowns and 2 picks. However, he has steadily grown into the season, leading rookie quarterbacks with 9 passing touchdowns after 8 weeks. His best performance came in London, leading the Bears to a 35-16 win over the Jaguars with 226 passing yards, 4 touchdowns, and a 79% completion rate. Like, I mean, on national TV, Williams absolutely picked apart the Jaguars and made some beautiful throws while also picking up over 50 yards with his legs. And I think one of the most underrated aspects of his rookie season so far is that he's been given so much control at the line of scrimmage, making pre-snap reads and audibles. Like, that's a lot of stuff for a rookie to handle, and it says a lot about him that the coaching staff are trusting him with all of that already. Unfortunately, and strangely, coming off of a bye week 2, he didn't look his best when he was playing the Commanders in week 8, but he did improve as that game did go on as well. As we all know, the Bears were narrowly defeated by a ridiculous last-second Hail Mary, but we're going to cover a little bit more on that in just a second with their quarterback. But nonetheless, Williams has helped Chicago to a 4-3 record, currently last in a historically good NFC North that really honestly looks tough to predict right now. And honestly, given Caleb's growing comfort with the weapons he has around him and the solidarity in the Bears defensive unit, it's not tough to imagine Chicago making a case for one of the NFC wildcard spots. Now, from one Heisman winner to another, Jayden Daniels had a far less straightforward rise to stardom than the only man picked before him in this year's draft. As we all know, Jayden Daniels did transfer to LSU, and pretty much while he was at LSU, he just had a complete resurgence in his college career among Brian Kelly and just the electric offense that they did have at LSU. Under the bright lights of the SEC, he nearly matched his freshman year output in 2022 before exploding in his 2023 Heisman winning campaign. Daniels' 3,812 passing and 1,134 rushing yards helped him to 50 total touchdowns while throwing for only 4 interceptions and completing 72.2% of his passes. He led college football in average quarterback rating along with yards per rushing and passing attempt. He was a certified dual threat stud with many teams that were high on the former Tiger, but none more so than the Commander, whose quarterback in 2023, Sam Howell, led the league in sacks and interceptions. And I mean, as crazy as it sounds just comparing Jayden Daniels to Sam Howell as well, it took Daniels 4 weeks to throw his first interception in the NFL. And now up to this point has emerged as one of the most accurate passers, not only from the rookies, but in the NFL as well, and looks like the surefire pick to win the Rookie of the Year award for the offensive side. side. And yes, just like Caleb too, he did get off to a little bit of a slow start, but it was steady, much more steady than Caleb over the first 2 weeks of the season, with offensive coordinator Cliff Kingsbury clearly wanting to keep things simple for his rookie quarterback. A couple of rushing touchdowns in week 1 flashed his game-changing ability before he enjoyed his true breakout moment in week 3 against the Cincinnati Bengals. On Monday Night Football, with the whole nation watching, Daniels completed 91% of his passes for 254 yards and 2 touchdowns, leading his team on scoring drive after scoring drive against a tough Bengals defense. Oh, and then with the game on the complete line, he proceeded to go and do this.
We're down in 7. This one is launched from McLaurin. Touchdown!
Like, I mean, it was just a true jaw-dropping display on prime time, and he did it again just a few weeks later, producing an epic 52-yard Hail Mary to Noah Brown in the end zone for a last-minute win against who else but Caleb Williams and the Chicago Bears. And I mean, look, if that's any sign of what we are to expect about these two just NFC rivalries of those two rookie quarterbacks continuing to play each other in the future, then sign me up for it, because that game was crazy. On the season, though, Daniels has helped lead an unsuspecting Washington side to atop the NFC East with a 6-2 record, starting every game as one of the most exciting young players in the league. He leads all rookie signal callers in passing yards with 1,736, a completion percentage with 71.8%, and an average quarterback rating with 104.3, in addition to gaining over 400 yards and 4 scores on the ground. Like, I mean, it's safe to say that Commander fans are living on cloud 9 at the moment, enjoying their new ownership and now genuinely believing they might win their first division title since 2015. One pick after the most successful rookie quarterback thus far came Drake Maye, heading to New England 3rd overall. And now look, joining a franchise that pretty much you're not going to be the automatic starter, which happened to be the case for Drake Maye when he did get drafted by the Patriots, honestly isn't the worst thing at all to happen to him. I mean, after all, Drake Maye did show glimpses of his brilliance while he was at UNC, but at the same time, it also suggested that there were plenty of things that still needed to be worked on in his game. He did finish 10th overall in Heisman voting and won ACC Player of the Year, but did see a decline in his 3rd season in Carolina Blue with a 2023 campaign that was hampered by inconsistency in Chapel Hill. I mean, nonetheless though, Drake Maye's size, arm talent, and just his mobility were completely undeniable no matter what though. And because of that, it kept him highly ranked as one of the better quarterback prospects coming into this year. And I mean, as we all know, we do remember this throw he had in the preseason against the Eagles, but was ultimately still named the backup to veteran quarterback Jacoby Brissett, who he replaced briefly in garbage time of a week 3 loss to the Jets. After 2 more weeks of disappointing Jacoby Brissett performances, Maye was finally named the starter against Houston, where he threw 3 touchdowns and led the team in rushing, making him the first quarterback to do so since 1950. He then improved in his second start to complete 70% of his passes for 276 yards and 2 touchdowns in yet another Patriots loss. Maye did sustain a concussion against the Jets in week 8, but not before he grabbed a rushing touchdown to help them win 25-22. And though the season hasn't particularly been well in Foxborough and the playoff picture is already looking pretty bleak, Drake Maye will certainly be an exciting player to watch when healthy and with many more weapons around him going into the future. The last quarterback selected in the first round of the 2024 draft just so happens to be the most seasoned veteran in Bo Nix, who was selected 12th overall by the Denver Broncos. And as we all know, Nix was a starter across all 5 years of his collegiate career at 2 different schools. The former SEC Freshman of the Year in 2019, and including a rare triumph over Bama in the Iron Bowl, set the Auburn Tigers on a 9-4 season. And following an injury he did sustain which cut his sophomore season short and forcing him to transfer to Oregon, while at Oregon he had the best completion percentage in the Pac-12 with over 3,500 passing yards and 29 touchdowns to complement his 510 yards and 14 touchdowns on the ground, priming him for the best season of his career in 2023. I mean, while at Eugene, he looked very at home as he led college football in completions with 364, a completion percentage with 77.4, and touchdowns with 45, while ending up as a Heisman finalist in his last year of eligibility. And I mean, even coming into the draft, a lot of scouts were high on this dude's experience and just the mobility and capability he had to throw the ball on the move. He did receive a lot of comps in the pre-draft process to no one but my favorite quarterback, then Drew Brees. So I mean, it kind of came as no shock that, of course, at pick number 12, Sean Payton was going to have to take Bo Nix. And despite a concerning start for the Broncos as they tried to calm the storm in a quarterback room that had been out of sorts since Peyton Manning had retired, Bo Nix has grown into the season in a manner similar to Caleb Williams, with the Broncos sitting second in the AFC West behind the dominant Kansas City Chiefs. And now look, I'm not going to sugarcoat it because the early outings for Nix were pretty bad. Like, I mean, the dude could barely even complete a pass beyond the sticks. Like, it was safe to say that he was struggling with accuracy and just making awful reads at times, but week on week, the kid has just been able to improve and just steadily get more comfortable as the season has gone on. He's passed the 200-yard mark 4 times in 5 games between weeks 2 and 6 and has led the team in rushing 3 times, not including a season high effort of 75 yards on the ground against New Orleans. He is a legitimate threat with his legs, and his most recent outing showed just how quickly he is developing as a passer, even if it was against Carolina's terrible defense. Against the Panthers, Nix completed 75.7% of his passes for 284 yards and 3 touchdowns, utilizing 10 different targets and making the most of his good protection. He showed that he can progress through his read when he has time and ripped a few missiles in there as well. Nix is already top 10 in the league for pass attempts and completions, leading rookies in both categories as well, and is clearly on an upward trajectory. And now, yes, though Denver's offense isn't the most dynamic, they are certainly capable of winning games this season, especially on the shoulders of their imposing defense. So I mean, don't be too surprised if we see Bo Nix in the postseason this year, as the Broncos may as well sneak in with one of the AFC wildcard spots if they can keep winning. And now, of course, there were 2 more taken, with Atlanta selecting Michael Penix Jr. 8th overall and Minnesota selecting JJ McCarthy 10th overall, but both are very intriguing prospects in fascinating situations, as we start with Penix, who currently is backing up a surging Kirk Cousins, and McCarthy, who is sidelined with a season-ending knee injury behind a similarly surging Sam Darnold. With both teams playing very well in 2024, these are 2 storylines that will be very interesting to follow moving forward. All we can do though for now is focus on the guys that are on the field. I mean, there's no doubt that Jaden Daniels has been the best, but Bo Nix and Caleb Williams have put together solid rookie campaigns as well. Drake Maye is also off to a very strong start in far fewer games in New England, suggesting that this 2024 quarterback class could be generational. And if you guys want to see a video on how Jared Goff fully resurrected his career from going to the LA Rams and Sean McVay completely just kicking him out to the Detroit Lions and being Super Bowl contenders this year, then click this video right here.